welcome back. Thank you for coming back. If you are new here, thank you for coming to hang out. Tonight I thought I was going to do a quick tutorial, also sort of for the beginner dipper, because I know there's so many of you out there right now doing your own nails at home. And that is a quick but simple dip with a chunky glitter. Chunky glitters are a little bit tricky to work with until you get used to it. Getting cuticle lines to look right when you've got big glitters overhanging, getting them to lay down flat, getting it buffed and smooth without ruining it entirely is a little bit tricky. So I am going to film mostly, I think, just the chunky glitter part of the manicure I have planned tonight. I am going to be using Revel's Forever, which is the chunky glitter that you're going to see me working with. It is a beautiful blue glitter. It has like a hollow flakes. It has a lot going on in there. It has big glitters, little glitters, has a little bit of shimmer. There's a lot happening. I'm also going to be using Revel's Sorbet, which is out of their spring drop-ins, I believe. I think it is still one of the ones that's available on the site. Which is also another beautiful color. And this one actually shocked me when I actually got it to my house. I thought it was just like an orange sorbet type color with maybe a little bit of glitter in it. I wasn't entirely positive. I just saw spring colors and had to have it. But then when I dipped it to do my swatches, I noticed that there was like a very, very fine like lavender shimmer in it, which is gorgeous, and I wasn't expecting it. I am also using Vivian, which is Revel's clear powder. I'm going to get into what you need this for once I have everything flipped down and we've got started. And then of course I have my 3 dip liquids that I always use. And again, because I am filming this for a beginner dipper, I have just my 2 nail files. I'm not going to be using my electric file for anything. I'm not going to be using anything fancy. I'm going to be using my toothbrush. I'm going to be using my dotting tool for cuticles, which you can of course replace with a toothpick, an orange stick, whatever you want, and I have my cuticle pusher, and that's all I'm going to use to do this. So I will cut this intro off. I am going to flip everything down, get started, and show you guys how to deal with the chonkiest of glitters. And I hope somebody finds it helpful. I will see you guys in a second. Hey guys, okay, so I'm doing this voiceover style because my kids kept coming down and making a racket when I was dipping. So I've got Sorbet, I have Forever, and I have Vivian. Vivian is really important to have when you're doing a lot of glitters. There are ways around doing a chunky glitter or fine glitter if you don't have Vivian, but I do recommend that when things are all back to normal, get some clear. And again, my nails are completely trashed because I'm trying to let them grow, so I'm not removing my gel with acetone and stuff. I really should, but here we are. They look gross. So yeah, I've got just the things that I have from my beginner guide that I linked in my intro, and I'll put another link to it in the description. My nail files, my toothbrush, my cuticle tool, and I'm going to do the chunky glitter on my thumb and on my ring finger. I needed to do 2 fingers because I wanted to show you guys the 2 different ways to finish off doing a chunky glitter like this, especially if you don't have a clear dip of any sort at home. And you might not if you've just ordered a starter kit. It doesn't often come with clear dip. You have to get that separately. So when I open up a chunky dip, I like to shake it and tap it so it kind of makes the glitter lay flat on the surface. It doesn't make every bit of glitter lay flat, but it gives you a better chance at getting things smooth on there when you first dip. And when you do a chunky glitter dip, that's how you would typically dip, just, dipping your finger in. But when you do a chunky glitter, it's way easier if you lay your finger flat on top of the dip that way. I didn't actually put anything on my fingernail there. I just wanted to show you how to lay it flat versus dipping. So the same way you would dip any solid color, start close to the cuticle, push the product towards the cuticle without touching, and brush down. With the chunky glitter, you can make your layer of base a little bit thicker because it'll just help hold on to a few more of those glitters, but not too thick because it'll all end up pushing around. You'll get used to the amount of pro base that you need once you've done it a couple times. And then press the glitters flat with your finger. Some people like to put their finger in a little plastic baggie or something so you don't get any stuck to your finger. I don't typically mind if I have a few stuck, so I just use my finger. So the same way you would with a solid dip, just use your cuticle tool, whether it's a toothpick, an orange stick, or whatever you're using, and go around your cuticle lines to make sure nothing is adhered to the skin. You can see I have a whole bunch of glitters that are overhanging, but I did go around with my cuticle tool, so none of them are actually stuck to skin or anywhere that I don't want them stuck. Those will be taken care of with a file at the end. Just as long as you go around with your cuticle tool and make sure they are not actually adhered to your skin, because then you're in some trouble. Same with my thumb. I'm again putting base on near the cuticle, not touching it, pulling down. I actually had too much pro base on my brush this time, so I had to wipe it off halfway and go back and sort of redistribute and make sure everything was on there smooth and not too thick. And then again, tap a little bit so that it's flat on the surface and lay your finger down flat. Tap off. And you can see it's sticking up and kind of crazy. Yeah, so again, just use your other hand, a finger. You can use a cuticle pusher sometimes too to lay it flat, but it has to be the perfect arch to match your fingernail, and they typically aren't. So I just use my finger, and if I get some glitter stuck to it, I file them off. Go around your cuticle again, of course, to make sure none of those glitters that are overhanging are actually stuck to anything. And I like to activate my chunky glitters more often than you should. And I also just kind of dab it on because brushing it is, it just doesn't work very well. It'll skip over some bits and pieces, and so I just dab it on to make sure everything is saturated. I like to do this before I brush it off just to make sure that I'm not losing glitter that would be stuck if it was activated, because chunky glitters they're a pain, but they're totally worth the extra trouble. You can activate as many times as you want, as long as you're activating at the appropriate times as well. Activating will cure your base and the acrylic powder that's in the dip, so that's why you can do it whenever to make sure things are secure. And then I just take my file and I file around where I've got any glitters that are overhanging my finger and not supposed to be there. And I do this for every coat of chunky glitter, because if you're trying to get rid of glitters that are hanging over at the end and you're trying to do it with 2 and 3 dips worth, you're going to be filing for a while. But if you do it after every layer, it doesn't take any time at all. And I also apologize if you hear my kids in the background. It's quarantine life. There's no kid-free time these days. I love this glitter so much. It's so pretty. I keep catching myself today staring at it in the sunshine. And so yeah, I'm just gonna go and do my dips with a sorbet. You guys don't need to watch that. So I'm just gonna do the second dip. I'm gonna follow the exact same thing that I did when you are watching it real time. So pro base, lay flat, tap off, cuticle lines, press down. You know the routine by now. It is so chunky. Chunky glitters look so awful while you're doing them, but when they're done and they're shiny and encapsulated, they're just beautiful. Again, Pro Base, lay flat, press down, cuticle lines. So I have 3 layers of sorbet on my other fingers. And so I take some of that clear Vivian and I put it in smaller containers when I'm using it with glitters so that I'm not contaminating the whole 2 ounces of it that I have. And that is one of the ways that we're going to finish off this chunky glitter. And the other way is just, again, with Pro Base. It's called encapsulating, putting a layer of something over top to encapsulate the glitter. So yeah, I'm activating so that I can get to the buffing. If you buff glitter without something to protect it, oftentimes the glitters, it doesn't matter what color they are, they will all turn silver because most glitter is just like aluminum flakes covered with a very thin layer of a color. So yeah, I'm just doing a quick initial shape of the glittered fingers to make sure that I don't have any chunky glitters that are anywhere that they're not supposed to be. So for my thumb, I did the clear dip over top method. Get a fresh wipe of some sort, your newsprint, paper towel, or a lint-free wipe if you have one. Do another layer of Pro Base, the same way you would with anything, and then lay flat into the clear dip so that your glitter is protected under that layer and you can buff it smooth. And of course, treat it like any other dip. Cuticle lines. And it looks awful with clear dip over it. It looks like you just ruined the whole thing, but I promise you didn't. And again, activate it because I am going to be buffing it smooth next. That's the next step. And to encapsulate my ring finger, if you don't have clear dip available to you, you can do 1 or 2 layers of Pro Base, letting it dry in between. And another little hint, if you have a dropper bottle for activator, you can do a drop of activator on top of Pro Base to cure it immediately, so you can go right back to do your second coat to protect that glitter. Oftentimes the results with this method won't be quite as smooth because it's not building up the way a dip layer would, of course. It's not as thick, but it's definitely a way to use glitters, chunky glitters, if you don't have any clear available and you just want to do a glittery nail. And I get it, glitter's my life. So I just let that dry. I did 2 layers of it because this is a very chunky boy of a glitter. So I did 2 layers of Pro Base over my ring finger. I did the 1 dip of clear over my thumb and do final shaping, and then we're going to get to buffing. And it looks like I'm being really rough with my cuticle, but I'm actually not. I'm just going gently around to make sure that I don't have any glitter still poking out anywhere that's not supposed to be there. And yeah, you just buff that whole nail until it feels smooth and you don't feel any bumps anywhere anymore. And same with the pro-based finger. Shaping, buffing, going around the cuticle gently. And then I just really sped through buffing the rest of my nails because it's really boring to watch somebody buff fingernails. So now everything is buffed, everything's smoothed. I take my toothbrush to get all of that nail dust off, all that acrylic dust, and then go and rinse that hand with no soap at all, dry it completely, give it a few minutes to totally dry, and then we're going in for top coat. So do your activator, wait a full 2 minutes for that to set up and evaporate off the surface. Yep, 2 minutes. Yep, there we go. And then it's top coat time. So the first layer of top coat, again, of course, is just a quick 2 swipes on each nail. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be precise. And make sure you're definitely brushing off your finish gel brush between the nail and going back into the bottle. And then your second layer of top coat, you do immediately once you've finished that first layer. And this one you can spend more time on. You can do more swipes of your nail if you need to, but do still try to keep it minimal because the more brush strokes you do, the more risk you run of it being not smooth. So that's it. That's how you do a chunky glitter. I did take a picture today in the sunlight, and I'm going to put it up at the very end of the tutorial. Okay guys, that's it. That's all it takes to work with the chunky glitters. I know they seem really intimidating when you first open your jar and you see all the like porcupine type glitters sticking up and all around, and it's like, oh my god, how is it gonna lay it flat on my nails? But yeah, it's really not as hard as it looks, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. You have to just dive in, try things, find what works for you, whether it's the clear dip, whether it is using a layer or two of base on top of it before you buff. Yeah, I hope that you guys come back and join me next time. I'm thinking I might do a very simple, just a little bit of a sparkle ombre, because I think they are the easiest ones to get right when you're first starting in this, what is turning into a beginner dip series. But yeah, definitely subscribe if you're not. Find me on Instagram. I'm going to link everything down below. I am at 10_x_Tina, and I will see you guys later. Bye.